Hey everyone, I'm Airier, and this is going to be a bit of a different video. This is going to be looking into one of the secret relations that's been hiding in Destiny's lore. This one, though, is not actually hiding in the Grimoire like a lot of them are. This one has only come to light in Rise of Iron and in one specific map, Icarus. Now, part of the lore for this is that this is on Mercury, as you can see on the picture right over there. Now this is special because the Vex ate Mercury. Mercury is its own Vex machine at this point. This isn't. This is a solar farm from the Golden Age, and it is untouched. Now before I go any further, don't forget to hit that button right down there, or right up there. They both say subscribe, and it would help if you pressed it. That would help a lot. Thanks! Now, moving back on, the thing about this is, well, as you can clearly see over here, this is a Rasputin base. That is the symbol Rasputin, specifically Rasputin uses. And because Siva has its own symbol, and when you go through the bottom sections, that isn't something the Fallen added, that is actually the symbol for Siva, it does indicate that each controlled section had its own thing. This wasn't a blatant across all the Warminds, this was specifically Rasputin's symbol, because the other AI, which was Siva that we know about, has its own symbol as well. Now what makes this interesting is, like I said, all of Mercury is a Vex machine at this point. They have consumed the world. They were going to do it to a few other places, but we stopped it. But this is the only place we know of that's really Vex-free, which would imply that for some reason they're not coming here. Now, the Vex hate everything that's not Vex as a starting point, so they certainly just don't appreciate the architecture. They've never implied that they happen to like Rasputin or anything human-made. The only thing we can see so far is that for some reason, this one map, this individual section of Mercury, is completely untouched. Now, we have to wonder what exactly makes this different. And overall, there's not many indications, but there are hints. Like I said, this is a Rasputin-controlled section. And now, there's always been rumors since year one that there might be some kind of relation between Rasputin and the Vex. They're just rumors, and I've completely written them off for literally years at this point. Also, that is a freaking cool image. Not going to stare at the sun, though, but damn, does that look cool. Yeah, it really does. But, oh, sorry. Without getting distracted by the amazing scenery, which we have no interaction with at all, damn it. As you can see, this is a very built-up solar collector where you gather the input here, channels it up there, and believe it or not, this is how a solar collector in Earth, or at least the ones we have as solar gardens, this is kind of what they look like in reality. I know, freaky, isn't it? Not nearly as cool looking, but you get the deal. This is one of two reasons why I think there might be a connection between the Vex and Rasputin. Now, what the Vex are is they're not actually robots, they're cyborgs, extreme cyborgs, and that little glowy section, their juice box, that's where the only organic components are. It's the glowy white stuff that has an unfortunate effect of looking like a popped condom whenever you kill them. Seriously, Bungie, what the fuck were you thinking? But that is the only organic part of them left. They're a hive mind at this point, but they do have an organic component, and that is almost all mechanical to that one extent. And there are some indications that, well, the Vex have an interesting take on time. For one, they decide to screw around with it. So knowing when they were created is kind of hard to say, because for all we know, they haven't been created yet, or they were created well in the past. And with time travel, it doesn't really matter. But that does kind of lead to the idea, if the Vex can time travel, how come they haven't traveled to when Guardians were first created, to when humans were first created, and kill us all? We ain't dead, so that would imply for some reason they can't do that. Now, when you come into time travel, the first reason you would ever consider not doing something is that it would create a paradox, which is literally one of the missions in the game. Now, how that works out is that we've run through it ourselves, so we've seen multiple endings, but they don't actually create paradoxes themselves because it's a closed timeline. We've seen the loops, but we're outside of the loop. As opposed to having one person come out because all the others are lost. We only have ever seen one version of him get out. Granted, it was a skeleton and he was dead, but that was the thing. So the only reason you really come to that the Vex wouldn't want to destroy us is that for some reason we are important in their creation, because by destroying us, they destroy themselves, which they like this entire self-preservation thing in a whole, as opposed to the masses they throw at us, which was kind of counter to that, but AI game design. What you want to look at, though, is specifically one piece we just got in Rise of Iron. This bond right here. The Sepix deposed bond. I'm just going to put it up. Now, if you see, it's the Rasputin symbol with the Vex symbology. Sorry, not Vex, but the Rasputin and Siva switch off. Now, that does imply that they're fighting against each other. It does imply a lot of things. But what's really interesting is what it says up here. Prime no longer, but primes, no primes but we. That would indicate that Rasputin and Siva, are not quite normal anymore. And if Axis is any indication, Siva doesn't need a physical mind. It can take bodies and build off them, which we saw with the corrupted guardians in the Iron Tomb. And Axis himself was a vegetable. You see that in the lore, actually. It says that he's pretty much a vegetable at this point, who's just dancing to Siva's tune. Yeah, believe it or not, Siva's the one controlling Axis. He's not really there anymore. The mind's gone. The mind is really gone. It's actually part of the reason why he doesn't react until you break the centerpiece, because there's really no him anymore. He doesn't react because it's just not there. It's just a Siva-controlled puppet. There's nothing else to it. But it does show something. It shows that Rasputin and Siva are intertwined, because you could see in this bond alone, that is something where it does seem like Siva is infecting Rasputin. It was only in the bond, but it's an interesting choice that Destiny and Bungie would choose to make that, because it has implications. This alone also shows that this is a section that was completely controlled by Rasputin, and the Vex didn't mind it. They had no desire to destroy it, unlike literally everything else. So they have some kind of respect for Rasputin, and since it's been established that they have respect for nothing that isn't Vex, it leads to a lot of questions of what exactly the relation is. So all we know about the Vex, though, are that they are organic-based cyborgs. Everything robotic except for that little organic section, which is more or less exactly what Siva reduced all its hosts down to. They were machines that were being controlled by the machine group, which was Siva itself, and then they had the bodies more or less be removed entirely until they were very little that wasn't machine. At the end, and this is also in the lore, Axis didn't even need either, even though he was a fallen, a Liskni. I'm probably butchering the name of the race. Because there was more machine than any biological component there. So it's not inconceivable to believe that we might be looking at the beginning point of what the Vex are. So the reason they haven't actually made a point to destroy us is because they really don't want to yet. And it's been documented that there are missions where they are willing to work with us. And if you also take that a step further to take this bond as an indication that Siva and Rasputin are actually fighting in dominance over who is going to be the one to survive, it's also entirely possible that this might even drag in Charlemagne. Now, how he works into this, don't even ask me. I don't even want to contemplate the AI who hasn't been awakened yet. Will he be an important part? I don't know. There was a strike dedicated to finding him, although you don't really realize that in the Dust Palace unless you listen to it, but who does that at this point? That said, it's hard not to see a connection with the fact that the Vex wouldn't cannibalize this one place. That in the exact same expansion that this came out, we also got a bond that shows a connection between between the Siva-infected Sepix and Rasputin, and that they refer to themselves as we. Which means Siva thinks of it as machine god, which is exactly how the Fallen referred to primes. They were the machine gods of theirs. We implies that it's dragging Rasputin along with it. Now, whether Rasputin is willing, aware, or corrupted, I got no idea. But there is something there. And there are all these little indications that if Bungie decides to drop us with a massive spoiler that, hey, by the way, the next update is going to be the Vex, because they are what happened after Siva wasn't quite destroyed with Axis. Or even the other one, we created a paradox by destroying Axis, and now we're doing something about it because the Vex don't want there to be a paradox. I mean, that's bullshit time travel stuff, but why not at this point? It's not the craziest thing we've done. That would literally be shooting orcs in the nuts. Okay, that wasn't actually gameplay, that was literally just something you could do, but that's beside the point. All the same, it's just too much of a coincidence that in the text for this map alone, it says this is one place that the Vex did not completely destroy and reformat. They completely left it untouched. This is Golden Age Rasputin controlled territory, untouched by the Vex, who have complete dominance over Mercury. Everything has their touch, except this. That alone, I won't say it's damning, but the implications, they're not small. So look out for more, see if there's anything I might have missed. There's definitely a connection here at this point, because there's almost no way not to, especially when Bungie goes out of its way to point out such blatant connections, but then leaves them blank because Bungie's a bunch of trolls. They really are. All the same, hope you enjoyed. If you have any ideas, leave a comment right down below. I want to see if we can maybe pull this together. They might have left more clues I haven't seen yet, and I'm fascinated in finding this stuff out. I love these little mysteries. And all the same, these buttons right down here and right up there, hit them. They help. There's subscriber buttons, and everyone helps. I just actually hit the 500 mark a couple days ago, so I'm trying to see, hey, next one's up 1,000, so let's see if we can get there. That'll be awesome. Thanks, everyone. Later.